Hey everyone, this is Panera, and I'm here with a first-time AoS member, but a veteran caster named Boistrous.
Hello, everybody.
And we're actually watching the Toninator, who is a regular contributor on the channel. He's actually a High Master Zerg in North America, and he is going to be giving us the sort of replay that we're going to work with. So it looks like... oh geez, it looks like some sort of extractor trick is going on. Go ahead and talk about the StarCrafty side of stuff. There's not much to talk about with the biology right now.
Alright, will do. It would appear that, I don't know, he should be going for an extractor trick, but currently I do not... Oh, yeah, no, there it is. And I think our things are actually completely out of sync at this point, at least me watching the actual replay and then you watching the stream. So that's a little bit more on the awkward side than anything else. However, with this overload moving out across the map, we are going to see the scout going down on his opponent, along with quite a few drones coming out. At this point, I could very easily see something like a 15 hatch coming out, which is, you know,
it's
quite
possible.
favorable.
Oh, he actually went to the third. So when this block happens right by the resources, the Zerg kind of is left with a few choices. They either kind of go all out, just aggressive, knowing that they're, or hoping rather, that their opponent is at some well-entrenched Terran fortress, as we can see that it is indeed a Terran, or they can just simply go to the next available resources, which is what we've seen.
Yeah, definitely. We see actually the Terran player going for an expansion of his own at an extremely early timing. So we have both these players going for, you know, just absurdly fast expansions. Especially the Terran player, you barely ever see someone expand that fast unless they scout the very early hatchery. And actually.
Yeah, in response to that, of course, we're seeing another hatchery lay down, and this is very typical for a young hatchery that isn't impeded by something like a bunker rush. They kind of expand out, sort of lay claim to as many resources as they can, and then they proceed to prepare to actually harvest these resources. So. Yeah,
we're going to see a lot of drones coming after this young hive that has just recently taken up roots on the planet of Ohana, or wherever Ohana is located. We even see 2 evolution chambers currently going down, so it's very possible that we could see a quick rush coming out on this from this young Zerg player as he starts going for probably double upgrades into just pure Zergling.
See, there's a really huge weakness at this point. You can either cover it 2 ways: by aggressively spreading your creep so that you get sort of one combined base and you're able to defend, because hatcheries are extremely vulnerable, or you can go super aggressive because, as we all know, the best defense is a good offense. So there you go. I think that might be what's going to happen. We don't have a production bar, and that's by request. We want to be cold casting this, and we've got Hellions.
Yeah, this is definitely not the point where you want to be going for those very early upgrades on the Zerglings, because I'm completely sure that those are in fact very early upgrades. I mean, we're going to see something like a Baneling bus coming out, but the Banelings aren't going to be able to do anything. This extremely early Hellion play kind of ruins a lot of Zergs and kind of ruins a lot of choices they make in the early game, because those Hellions, they do not care about anything.
The one thing I want to point out is that there are still rocks connecting the second and third. So when you've got a young hatchery system like this, something like that, when you spread out so much, you get as much resources. A Hellion run by. That's exactly what I'm talking about. You're so spread out, you've invested so much in this very vulnerable state that life becomes very difficult. Fortunately, there are queens, though.
Yeah, definitely. And it looks like that Hellion harass did manage to take out just a couple of drones. Not exactly the most effective sort of damage we've ever seen from Hellions, although, you know, those drones were definitely quite a big hit to the Zerg, as they always want to try to take out and make as many drones as possible to gather all of the resources a map has to handle.
If you just heard the random mutation hail, the hereticking as it's called by Potato Lisk, that was Toninator. He's got his mic on, but he's not talking. He's welcome to, though. Anyway, he's just probably moved his mic now. We're just making fun of him, as this is actually his he's paused it now. Oh my gosh, Toninator is ruining the game.
Sorry, I was moving my mic.
F10 is a button you don't want to hit.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good, man. So one thing that we just saw was we always talk about things like forcing the Zerg to make spine crawlers and stuff. Well, that's a very good choice for a young hive. If you don't poke in and prod in at the young hive, they're going to just overrun you. That's their goal, right? Make as many of the same type of unit, the drone, as possible. Oh, and
Yeah,
there's a nice
definitely.
scope.
Once they get up to kind of an 80 drone, somewhere around the level of 80 drones, you'll see them just start transitioning straight into units, and as soon as that happens, you're going to start running into issues, because they probably will never need to stop, and they'll just keep slaughtering you with units, because those units are willing to completely sacrifice their lives for the good of the Zerg.
And depending on the Zerg strain, you can actually see as many as 110. Or even fewer, even fewer than 80. It just depends. But we've got a Spire coming down. We've got the Infestation Pit. It looks like we're going for some fast Broodlords. And this is, the layer tech itself is really cool because it's more turtley than anything. Usually, you have got some pretty fantastic options, but the creep spread, annexing that territory, of course, anything that's covered by creep is, in the Zerg mentality, owned by the Zerg. It's kind of like when a cat sits on anything and kind of assumes that he owns it. So he's expanding his territory out, and now we've got some Mutalisks. So this Zerg is really looking to mitigate the vulnerabilities of the transition between Hive and Lair, and is looking to sort of do some damage with some of these raiders here.
Yeah, definitely, and of course the Mutalisks are just, again, the raiders of this Zerg hive mind, as they do fly into the main base at this point. There are quite a few missile turrets, and there are a couple of Marines in the main base trying to defend. However, those Marines will get taken out. It would appear that the Marine tank force is currently being brought on by the Terrans, so a kind of good response list would definitely be moving up into Infestors, because honestly, Mutalisks don't do that well against Marine tank unless you have really, really good control of your Banelings and your Zerglings. Just be able to swing in and take out all of the Marines, and then let your Mutalisks, of course, clean up the tanks.
And now I don't know if we're going to see this. We actually had an episode before this that we shot the bed on entirely. So this will be the first episode that we upload of this. But with things like Infestors and things like Mutalisks, things that really need babysitting. So, for example, in sort of a broken line where you end up with Infestors kind of left behind even though they have full energy and they just die, it seems that the Hive itself kind of switches gears and goes, okay, well, this battle is lost. How do we prepare for the next one? What do I need in order to stop this pushing, say, Marine ball or, charge lot ball or whatever? So it's really quite interesting to see that, these units that require a lot of babysitting, they actually, they're very, I guess, we can almost say intellectually intensive for the Hive, and so they kind of just abandon them, even though there's really, they could do more, they just don't.
Yeah, definitely. And it appears that we actually have a kind of spine crawler forest, as a lot of people have taken to calling it, spawning up in the middle of the base. It looks like there's currently 9 spine crawlers going down right now, and this is really just to allow drones to die, but to make their lives a little bit better. Because with those spine crawlers, you're going to be able to hold off any sort of serious offensive from the Terran player for at least a little bit longer.
Unless they circumvent you.
Yeah, unless they just go to your 4th base.
Then you're SOL.
Yeah, that's of course a very issue with having a spine crawler wall in almost a completely pointless spot.
Well, here's the nice thing about being a Zerg in this situation, though. You've got your 3 bases, you've got the ability to do your wing run bys. And in reference to that other point where there's a lot of things, we've got section Mutalisks. But things like Zerglings, they kind of either move command to scout or attack command, like we're about to see here, and that crushes through anything, right? So they kind of know they've got this sort of binary command system, maybe trinary if you include something like, I don't know if trinary is a word, but whatever, if you include things like hold position and whatever. But it's not like they're very intellectually intensive. But what's really cool about being in a Hive, this kind of situation, is you can sacrifice hatcheries because you've got so much territory. Look, he's covering half the map. So that's half the map that belongs to the Zerg. And now the Terrans are in this horrible spot of, oh my god, we're deep in Zerg territory and the Broodlords are out.
Yeah, those Broodlords are never a nice sight to find. They're units that can literally reproduce in like 6 seconds. I don't understand how they do it.
Yeah, one day I'm going to cover the Brood Lords, and I was actually looking at them today and was kind of like, hey, I should still... never mind. These guys are pretty complicated. So you can look forward to I'm definitely going to need Brutaxos for that one. He's one of my bio nerds that really helps me out. He's totally awesome. Although only in high school, so this guy, he's pretty smart. So now we've got multiple bases going up in multiple areas, which is extremely common for a Zerg. Excuse me, I'm a little bit burpy because I'm drinking beer.
Well, that is the most important ingredient for any sort of casting recipe.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's great is so now we're in the phase of the game. So the layers where they kind of are turtling it in some cases, or going really aggressive in order to buy the time to get to this hive tech, this really expensive technology, right? They need to get so many resources and invest so much into this, and in fact, with creep spread as well, they kind of invest a lot into that too. But now he's kind of got this luxury. Where you're seeing, okay, well, there's multiple bases going up in multiple areas. So this is a very aggressive. The hive is probably the most aggressive and dangerous. It is the most dangerous point in any Zerg hive life.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, we kind of see the Zerg starting to take on almost an aggressive take on the land. It's just absolutely corrupting the entire land. They're focused not only on eliminating the enemy forces, but also on literally just taking all of the planet. They just want to corrupt everywhere.
Well, absolutely. They're spreading their creep. This is when the Zerg invade like this, they're not just invading to kill you. They are taking your planet, your resources to push forward with the hive. Because without that, there's no point in the hive. Without the need for more resources, there's no point in them colonizing new planets, except in the case of Ire. That was the only one case I can think of where it was a straight invasion, and they didn't really colonize it. Well, I guess there's hives and stuff on Ire and whatnot, but it's not to the point of like Tarsonis, where it became like their temporary homeworld, or Char. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's kind of one of those things where you can kind of have a single drone dropped on a planet, and within however much time they take over the entire planet, using things like nidus worms and creep spread. But they also have the potential to do calculated strikes, which is exactly what you see. And I know I'm going to get poked and prodded in ants. The single ant can't really form a thought. When they get up to say 10, 20, thousands of ants working together, you actually have this amazing thing happen where these creatures that can't form a single thought with no leadership cast at all of a sudden are using tactics, which is something that a lot of people will be like, okay, well, you're crazy. But I mean, hey, it's true. Yeah. So what do we have going on the Terran frontier?
As far as the Terran front goes, there's not a whole lot of information because there's no production tab and there's no actual information from the game, of course, because we're watching it from the Hive perspective and really trying to just bear down on what the Hive does to react to limited information. However, basically, at this point, the Terran could be going for almost anything.
Oh, this is an aggressive movement out here. Hold on.
Actually, yeah, there is.
Just the creep. So basically, when you get this wall of spine crawlers, this is the Zerg asserting itself and saying, "Look, you can remove my creep, but you will never take my liberty." No, that you will never. This is sort of the line where they say, "Okay, this is our territory for sure. Like we've had creep here for a while. You're not getting past it without being punished, right?" So they're starting to defend this aggressive push out of creep, and that's actually backed by corruptors and broodlords, which, I mean, to be fair, that's pretty nasty. So, this is the point where they really are starting to get into that colonialism mindset, where they say, okay, well, we've taken it this far, and now it's time that shit gets extra real here. You don't want to be the one pushing into this. And broodlords are interesting because kind of this unit that slowly moves out, right? And they kind of just say, okay, well, we're going to kill you now and take your territory and take your resources, scoop up your Terrans and put them in our infestors, all that good stuff. And really, it's for the first time in this entire hive development, it's up to the opponent to respond, right? So they really switched gears in this hive tech.
Yeah, definitely. We see the Terran kind of making a couple of major missteps here. First of all, he does not have nearly enough life points. If you see your opponent, Zerg's hive, start going for just massive amounts of Broodlords, you need those. You need a lot of Vikings. You need a lot of Thors. There's no way you're going to be able to handle it with just this sort of Marine Marauder bio force. In fact, in this kind of situation, you'll see the Zerg kind of just almost look like they smell blood in the water. And you'll just see them leap at any engagement they can go for, and then eventually just end up death pushing into their opponent's face.
Do you see which units are actually highlighted here by the Zerg Hive here? It's the queens. It's the ones with energy that require the babysitting to do your transfuses and things like that. It's not the target firing of corruptors. It's not the broodlords, the zerglings, whatever. It's actually the units that take the most intellectual intensivity from things like, you know, relay commands from the overlords and such.
Yeah, and I've always been confused about the Zerg, because if you think about it, Overlords are kind of their psionic beacons into the world. They're magnifiers. So you would think that there would need to be Overlords somewhere near the army, you know, to kind of get that psionic beam out there.
Well, unless we covered psionics in one other episode, and it's probably a large amount of pheromones, so you could potentially do it by tethering a certain amount of units to each overlord, which we see. But the problem is that psionics is probably bullshit, and it's largely pheromonal. So what you could hypothetically do, like let's say this Corruptor push that's moving forward, or this Broodlord push here, you give the orders to one of them, or one of them kind of knows what's going on, and this is where they differ from ants. And I'm trying my best to make the distinctions because I've gotten a lot of flack about ants. I'm like the ant guy, I know. It could be that this one Broodlord knows what the score is after receiving the score from the Overlord, and then has a pheromonal sort of cue that's cueing all of these other all these other Broodlords to push with him.
Yeah, definitely. And it looks like we have a Broodlord kind of just sitting near the Spinecaller Forest, hanging out, making sure that nothing accidentally sneaks by.
He didn't get the pheromone memo, is what's going on. Yeah, and see the queens here, they didn't get the memo either, but now they did. And so as a group, they push forward, right? It's like when you've got a pack of Zerglings running across the map, right? And at this point in the Hive development, I mean, you've got creep everywhere. So the whole map basically belongs to them, right? They're pushing into the main, saying, "Get the hell off of our planet," right?
Yeah.
With things like Zerglings in the early game, it's a lot of, I wouldn't say that their minds are necessarily linked, although that might be a difference in the lore, I'm not sure. They probably use a lot of body language. Oh, here's the GG push by the Terran.
Oh yeah, that's it. Once you charge 18 Broodlords with just Marines and Marauders, I think it's basically over for you.
Well, look at how aggressive this Zerg is being. The queens are on the other side of the map. It's saying, I've got enough hatcheries to produce the larva. I don't need these things babysat by the queens, so the queens are now being pushed out. This is sort of when the Zerg goes, again, get the hell off my planet.
Yeah, and if we just look at the Broodlord numbers, they're basically about to get absolutely ridiculous. I mean, that's a massive amount of Corruptors beginning to transform into Broodlords. So, basically, if the Terran doesn't leave at any point soon, these Broodlords are just going to absolutely wipe him off the planet. Like, literally and actually wipe him off the planet.
If you don't, that's the thing with the Zerg, right? It's kind of one of those things, think about it like with the Borg in Star Trek, where Jean-Luc Picard in the movie First Contact, they're saying, you know, oh, don't destroy the ship, don't abandon the ship, and he's going, you know, no, they keep taking our territory and you fall back. They take our territory and you fall back. At one point you have to say, you know, this far and no further, right? Yeah. And unfortunately, by the time that you're at Brood Boards at this level, this far and no further, tough shit for you, you gotta get the hell out of there. Because everything is going to die.
Yeah, and you're starting to see everything just die off at this point. These racks are going to be taken out in almost no time at all. And just look at the absolutely absurd number of broodlings down on the field right now.
Look at the bank that's going on from the Zerg as well.
Yeah, this has been an absolute dominant show of the power of even just a fledgling Zerg Hive to completely and totally evolve over, you know, just 30 minutes.
And 30 minutes I would imagine is exaggerated, much like the scale of the game. How easy is that? We got a little bit of the, how cute. We got, the thing is, like, scale in this game is obviously, like, skewed, and I think the time will lapse as well. So I think that Broodlords would probably take something like months to get up. It wouldn't be something like 20 minutes. But, yeah, there's a bit of a time time issues. So. But anyway, you harder than it looks. Oh! See, now we're getting some drops. So this was a really good example of what happens when you leave a hive. Like you know that there's Zerg near you. You let them go, and guess what's going to happen? It's this.
Yeah, you really need to deal more damage to them than sending in, 4 Hellions and not actually doing any severe damage, especially if you don't see something like roaches. Hellions are amazingly good against Zergling's forces, especially if you get that blue flame upgrade, maybe even start going for more of a mech push instead of that marine tank push, which we've seen kind of being outdated by Terran military strategists. They're starting to not like that sort of threat of attack quite as much, just because you'll see players that are going Infestors absolutely wiping out those armies, because as soon as you get close to a tank, it can't do anything at all.
Well, and one thing about the Terran army is once you kill or severely injure a Marine, an Infestor comes along. And guess what? You're now going to become an infested Terran.
Yeah.
So, okay, I'm kind of laughing at this BM here, but it's kind of interesting that, like, things... We always say, like, okay, Zerglings are expendable and stuff. But one thing a lot of people fail to remember is that, for whatever reason, there's enough people in the Kaprulu sector that all of the Marines are basically... they're convicts or volunteers, right?
Yeah.
So imagine... I mean, you're this convict, you're getting dropped. If they're doing a lot of drops, their due diligence, the drops mean nothing to the Terran, right? They can just drop one mule, as StarCraft's recently pointed out, and have an army of Marines just flood out of their barracks. So they also employ this sort of expendable troop, especially in the mid to late game. You get like a lot of Terrans dropping, and all this is to slow down the Zerg. So if you're getting to the point where the layer is even thinking about going to a hive, you're screwed. And the unfortunate thing is that a layer has Hydralisks, which are really fast on creep, has Roach upgrades, which make Roaches even more deadly, and has the Spire, which can actually force you to defend, and the Infestation Pit, which is scary as hell.
Yeah.
So it's really a well thought out series of evolutionary steps in order to, I don't want to say force your opponent's hand, but they really do have to do something about a Zerg right away.
Yeah, definitely.
And I guess that's probably you know the metagame better than me, so that's probably true for the metagame as well. So
yes.
All right. Well, this has been the first official episode of the Anatomy of StarCraft Nerdcasts. Thank you to Boistrous. His channel's link will be in the description, as well as Toninator's stream, which we're actually watching this on. So thank you for listening.